Christmas trees. One of my very earliest memories of growing up was my dad carrying me down the stairs on a Christmas morning to the vision of the tree and the house being decorated. You see, when I was little, we would go to midnight church, mass, whatever, and there were no decorations up anywhere. Not until Christmas morning. Because Mom and Dad, after putting us to bed in our brand new pajamas, not just good because we would look great for the pictures the next morning, but it was always kind of an event to have new pajamas. And we had new pajamas probably until I was in my 20s, going home for Christmas, because it was such a tradition. But Mom and Dad had this thing about making that morning truly special. So when we were put to bed on Christmas Eve, which was well after midnight, they would stay up. The neighbors would come over. They would have beer and cheese dip and whatever, and they'd decorate the tree and the house because nothing was up until then. So when we got up in the morning and came tumbling down the stairs, or in that case, very, very early on, my dad carried me down the stairs. We had this little magic moment. And I know it was a magic moment because I can still see it in my mind. I used to have a picture of my dad carrying me down the stairs for then, but I can't find it. The moment, if I ever do find it, I'll let you in on the secret. But Christmas trees are magical. We always had a fresh tree. There was never, ever a tree in our house that wasn't a fresh tree. Occasionally we'd go and cut down a tree, but more often than not would go to a Christmas tree lot and pick out one. My mom was very particular about which trees she wanted, and they were never the very, very long needle ones. There was always, and I still can remember her because having grown up or spending my very early formative years in the 50s, that putting the tinsel on the tree one strand at a time, something that I never had the patience for. And I can remember my mom doing this. Now, she might have had a Southern Comfort Manhattan in her hands at the same time, but it was always done. We had fairly traditional decorations. We didn't have a lot of tinsel. That wasn't, other than on the tree, because that caught the lights. But it was pretty much greens, berries. It was very beautiful. And favorite ornaments. And it was wonderful. Now, because I grew up into the 50s and into the 60s, some of my family actually went to the flossed tree, getting trees that had already had the snow on them in their house. There were even some members of the family who passed through the stage of having the metal trees, the very shiny, silvery aluminum trees that were generally lit from below, and then they would change color as the lights changed, the color of the lights changed under the tree. I always thought those were fun, actually. And I always had a little tree of my own, depending on when I left home and was living on my own. Always had a little tree. And then when we moved to the UK, there was still something wonderful about having a fresh tree. So we always had a fresh tree. And we decorated it with ornaments that we were starting to get and to collect, and some ornaments we'd brought home and ornaments that we had made. And yes, there were many years that I went and threaded cranberries and popcorn for the birds. I might even do that this year. We'll see. Trees, they're just magical. And fresh ones have a scent, particularly if you cut off the bottom, and of course you have to water it and keep it well watered. Otherwise it's not going to be, it's going to make a mess, but the mess doesn't really bother me that much because that's just part of what trees do. But it was that smell of fresh pine in the house. And that's something I really, really miss now that I have a forever tree, because it is better for me to have a forever tree right now. But I always had, well, at least the last probably 5 to 10 years, I've had a secondary tree. It's a little tree. It usually sits on a table, and then it's decorated with, I like to call it my bird tree. It's decorated with birds, bird ornaments, and various other little ornaments that you do. But my secret wish, or not so secret wish, has always been to have a German feather tree. An antique German feather tree would be amazing. But I've never won the lottery. And so having a real antique feather tree is a little out of my price range. So I made one. And the pictures that are going to be coming up are the metamorphosis of the tree that we bought, which was a little forever tree that was unlit, and the process that I went through over a number of years to make it into the tree that it currently is. Now, it won't be a tree that is to everyone's taste, but I am just gobsmacked at how much I love this little tree. And I started cutting off all of the needles, or making them very, 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 very short, little tiny ones. And it took me several years to get it to the place where I wanted it to be. So here we go, presenting my version of a feather tree from start to finish. Go ahead, have a laugh, but enjoy. I love it. It's great. Woohoo! And guess what? It's time to open the Duckie Advent Calendar box one more time here. It is day 13. Day 12 was a little disappointing as there was nothing in the box, but let's find out if there's anything in day 13. Oh, here we go. Opening day 13. At least it's not a Friday. A little harder to open up once some of those are open. Well, it looks like there's something. Oh, gosh. Now, there's two things in there. Does that mean that someday we're not going to get one again? I don't know. But we've got a little headband with some 8/8s and some little ducky glasses. Brilliant. Sounds like a good thing. At least it's better than yesterday. See you tomorrow.